and our ability to struggle and stand no matter what the odds, and our ability to win no matter what the opposition, it was important that this message went out to the young people in the schools.
How the book of Genesis borrowed its stories from all of the other books of African people that were already in circulation. Now, it is important for African people to know this because we have been convinced that the Bible is the only possible story and the only possible solution to the age-old question of where did humanity come from. And it is not. It is the youngest.
For every occasion, we pour libation to invite the spirits of the ancestors to be with us. And Nana Ama Serwa Tutu Ampe will be pouring libation.
Greetings, Akwaba. Welcome. I'd like you all to stand for this, please, just in honor of the ancestors who will be coming in today. Some who are already here. I'm going to start with a song of praise, asking the ancestors, the mother and the father, to be with us. It goes like this, and if you can pick up on it, I'd like you to join in. Pura Samine, Pura Samine. Original Ancestress, we ask permission to stand in your presence. We call on all the ancients of ancients, the ancients who held the wisdom. We call on Akhenaten. We call on Imhotep. We call on Hatshepsut. We call on all the deities of Kemet, whose principles we have within us. We ask you today, O Mother, Father, Creator God, this day of liberation, to liberate those principles, to activate those principles within us. We call on Auset, Tehuti, Sekhmet, Ma'at, Heruti, Heru. We call on Het Heru, Sebek, Auset, Geb. Nekabet, Uchaet. We stand in your presence today, O Mother, Father, Creator, God, original Ancestors, to ask for your blessing, to ask for the blessing of liberation. Free our minds of the shackles of conditioning. O Mother, Father, Creator, God, as we stand in your presence, we call and ask you to invoke all the forces of nature to work on our behalf for our freedom. We ask all the elements, air, water, fire, earth, mineral, activate those forces within us for our understanding, for our clarity of purpose, for the will, the courage, the determination, the motivation to do what we need to do in order to free our minds. We call on all the ancestors now in the light who've ever contributed to the upliftment of our race. However big, however small. We call on Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Toussaint Louverture. We call on Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, ancestors named and unnamed. We call on all the elements, the elementals of the elemental world, the devas. We call on all the African masters, the oversouls of Africa. Shine your light upon us, shine your light within us. Open our eyes, open our ears, open our hearts to what you have to say and show us. Oh, Mother, Father, Creator, God, Amen, Ra, awaken us. Shake us out of our sleep. Guide us. Activate within us the awareness and the knowledge of our angels and archangels who are constantly trying to get through to us. Enable us, O Mother, Father, Creator, God, to be open receptors. Enable us to download the knowledge, to bring back the knowledge, and to put that knowledge into action. We stand here today in humility. We stand in gratitude. We stand as children waiting to grow up. We ask for your guidance in enabling us to be aware that we have already grown up, that we are the stewards and the protectors of the planet. We are the stewards and the protectors of the universe. Stir us into that awareness so that we can stop today walking with our heads down, walking in the illusion that we are small and insignificant, walking in the ignorance that we hold the treasures of our ancestors, our heritage, our legacy. Open our eyes today. Ashe.
Welcome you all to African Liberation Day. And this year is particularly significant because it's the 25th anniversary. You know, as a people, we're very good at initiating, we have very good ideas, we start things, and we give the ideas and the concepts to other people. So for us to manage to continuously hold LD for 25 years, it's an achievement. Let us applaud ourselves together. And we're really grateful for those of you who've taken the time out to be here with us this year. But it's very, very important in terms of the topic which we've chosen to look at, man-woman relationship. And what we're hoping that over the 2 days we'll be able to explore those issues and to have a better understanding. And that we are respectful of each other and to each other over the 2 days. None of us have a monopoly on righteousness. None of us has all the answers. But as African people, we have a responsibility. As I say, each one, we have that responsibility. And so in our deliberation over the next 2 days, let us remember that. Let us remember, as I always say, we may not like each other, but we are all we've got. And we have to understand that. And we have to begin to live that and tell ourselves, even when we think we don't like each other, we are all we've got. And therefore, that we're charged with that responsibility to make our contribution towards the liberation of Africa and African people. Because nobody else will do it. We really need to move away where we focus our energies on what other people are doing to us. And we need to look at what we continuously do to ourselves and some of the things that we perpetuate. And we understand the historical reasons for that. But then, as knowledge increases and we get exposed, the days for ignorance are long gone. I was saying to somebody over this week that 20 years ago, to get any book which did anything for you in terms of uplifted your spirit, quite often were probably written by liberal white people or, you know, some kind of wishy-washy black people. But nowadays there's no excuse. We have the knowledge right at our disposal. The information is there. But it's not just about reading and becoming an expert and being able to quote this. We have to live those realities. And it starts with ourselves. And it's about our minds, about cleaning up our minds and having respect for each other. And I'm saying this today, I hope over the next 2 days we can be respectful of each other and to each other. We will have our differences, they will happen, but we are all we've got. Without further ado, I'd like to call on a young brother, AJ, who's going to sing for us. He's going to do a rendition, which is extremely appropriate. And it's important that we send the right spirit out to this young brother. So, big up AJ.
Greetings. I was born by the river in a little temple, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the skies. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. And then I go to the movies. Said I go downtown. But somebody keeps telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother, and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my feet. Whoa. Then I thought there were times when I thought I wouldn't last for long, but I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
To slackness, and to hear a 14-year-old brother come up here and talk about a change that's going to come. That is a challenge to us as elders. That is a challenge to us as parents. A change has got to come, and we have to be part of that. We all have a responsibility to be part of that change. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Pookrum, who I know many of you have come to see or to hear, particularly, because, you know, a lot of the phone calls we got about the program was, what time will Dr. Pookrum be speaking? And I know that each and every one of us will go away from here today much more well-informed. She's a beautiful sister with a great deal of knowledge and who shares and wants to share that with African people. And that's wonderful, because quite often we have a lot of talents and a lot of skills in our community, and we get so caught up in the kind of individualism we don't want to share. And another thing is, just to say before she speaks, and she will be speaking tomorrow again, that on behalf of the Pan-African Congress movement, just to publicly say just how grateful we are. So a big round Pan-African applause for Dr. Pookrum.
Het Heru, greetings everyone. This is more my milieu venue when I lecture, because I guess to Nana Bonso's surprise, I am a teacher, and I recognize that it was very, very important for me to really be able to break down and extend to my patients an understanding of their body, so they can really understand their own power and what was really being asked of them as they begin working on eliminating the diseases that they created for themselves. I want to give much gratitude and thanks also for the sister that presented Nana, a very profound presentation, and I really want to support her on that. I hope that you heard what she said. She heard some very profound things, and normally I don't even go into discussions with most people at the level that she's gone to, because by the time many people come to me to tell them that we've got, 13 years of energetic cleansing to do to really bring you back to the level that you need to be because of the abuse that you extended through your misuse of your sexual organs, through the misuse of the diets and things that you've eaten, can be quite devastating. But again, I was just saying to the elders who allowed me to share with them earlier, is that the gateways have flung open cosmically for all the secrets to be revealed. And before we could really get back into the seats here, she started telling the secrets, and it's true. So I've been asked to talk about building black bridges for us. I've been talking about relationships all week. And so anatomy is everything. Okay, and I had no idea when I was in med school that I was really studying the cosmos, that I was really studying the universe by really paying attention to anatomy. So anatomy is everything. It's very important to begin to understand that, and that you are always creating yourself. The experiences that you have, the thoughts that you have always play out in how you dress, the food you choose, how you speak to others, the signature of your handwriting, how you wear your hair, how you type a paper, how you build a building, how you cook a meal, etc. Everything that you do outside of yourself is an emanation of the interrelationship that you are having between your essence and your physical temple, your anatomy. And it's time now that we understood that. It's very interesting. I was looking at the brother kind of playing some games with my uterus, okay? But this is the uterus, okay? Not mine, but my uterus here. And can you see that? Now, I'm very up close to it, so it looks blurred here, but is it relatively clear out there? That normally, yeah, it won't go any higher. But I want to bring this to our attention here when we talk about black bridges. That is from this organ on the physical level that everything manifests. And I've kind of said this for the last couple of days, that this is really a sacred organ. It's known as the uterus. And if you pay close attention to it, it looks just like a pear. It's shaped like a pear. And it functions like a fruit. As a matter of fact, the uterus is the most highly evolved fruit on the planet. It functions exactly the same way. If we take and cut this sacred organ in half, which has been done here, it's very interesting. You know, if you cut a fruit in half, a fruit from a coniferous tree, inside, it actually almost looks the same. If you look at the core of an apple, you look at a pear, etc., and it functions the same way. This internal lining here, which forms the meat of the fruit, which is what most people eat, you know, so it's interesting. I want you to start thinking about your outer world as your inner world. When we eat a piece of fruit, we're actually eating a uterus. Okay, you're eating a uterus, and the meat inside literally functions exactly as the endometrium. So I bring this to your attention because I want you to begin to understand how building a bridge to anything, first of all, requires that you have to have some understanding and some knowledge of yourself for you really to get it. Okay, it's going to be very difficult for you to really see your connection to other things unless you are aware of and are connected with yourself. So I ask that this board come over here, because this is not going to be real tedious. This is building bridges, okay? The first thing that we have to do is make a commitment. Okay, because this bridge that we're building here has to have its main support links. So whether you build a flat bridge or a suspension bridge, there's all different types of bridges, but the point is that they should lead from one point to another. And in this case, if we're talking about building bridges for male to female relationships, okay, that always comes back to the one thing of making a commitment, which is the first thing is to self, okay? And when we talk about making a commitment to self, there's some things that you're going to commit to, which again is going to be commitment to self as far as anatomy. Okay, this is very important because just the word in itself tells you why it's so important. Because if you break the word down, it's Latin that is forming a couple of words. Okay, so the word anatomy is an Adam, Y, and they dropped the M and made the word anatomy. An Adam, my Adam. Okay, I am an Adam, my Adam. Does everybody see that? Can everybody see that clearly? From that word? No?
No, you need a black pen.
I need a black pen? Okay. What about a blue one? This one dried out. Do we have a black one? A big black one? That one dried out. Here. Let's do it this way. Can everybody see that?
No. Yes.
Oh, does it? He says this one works. Okay, let's try again. Oh, good. Okay, can you see that? So if we break it down, we wind up with these words, and atom. Okay. Why? And there's something that they perform at times known as an aprophoresis. And that's where they can actually drop a letter, okay? And so they drop the M, but actually the word anatomy means my atom. So it was understood thousands of years ago, oh good, that you were an atom. How about that? Okay. That is composing the molecule known as planet Earth. Okay? And so therefore, for you to really understand the components or attributes that you're giving to this planet, to this dimension, you have to understand your own individuality. Okay? So atoms are different, we know that, because some have more electrons than others, some have more protons than others. So it's important, as the sister said, that you have to study yourself to know what type of atom are you, okay? So therefore, you have to make a commitment in building a bridge in any relationship that you're going to make sure that you know yourself, as been stated. And one of the things that's so important here is anatomy. You have to know your own anatomy, because every organ system of your body will tell you what your potential is and the things that you can automatically create outside of you. So you are an atom. Anatomy is important. Understanding that you come from a fruit, the highest evolved fruit on the planet, should tell you a lot of things, because everything originates from the fruit, okay? So that's what we've been talking about, genetic engineering. I was just reading last night where they have created a whole pathway. Well, let me say this, okay. You have these little things like this that are known as a chromosome. And on this chromosome, the chromosome is a carrier or packaging that actually carries genes, okay? And these genes give rise to chemistry. It can be just one chemical, or 2 or 3 genes can actually give rise to an entire chemical pathway. Now, what was so profound about this is that this is the first time that they've been able to take a segment of genes and splice them into something else. So they took these little fish, they did this in Japan, so they took this cute little fish, okay, he has little stripes, and they said, okay, we want to take and slice a different type of attribute inside of you. And they made this analogy with rice, which I thought was interesting, because there's a new rice now that they have also created. It's a yellow rice, and it's yellow because it now contains vitamin A. But it doesn't just contain vitamin A, it contains provitamin A, which means that they've put the genes in here where it actually carries the precursor, the enzymes necessary to break down the precursor, and then actually create the vitamin in the rice once a person eats it. So this is a real big milestone in genetic engineering, because normally they can only just introduce one gene. They now are able to introduce segments. So they said, well, we want to see what the effect is going to be, so we're going to take and introduce a genetic pathway into these fish. Now what happens is they took the little fish and they added the genes. So we'll call this gene 3, since it was basically 3 genes that they added. And then they produce this superfish. Okay, now what happens with the superfish, however, is that they're bigger and they appear stronger, but they're all sterile. Okay? Now what happens is that they wanted to see if we take genetically engineered fish, just like genetically engineered food, and introduce it back into the natural environment, what would happen? So they discovered that, for example, all the females that are natural and wild were attracted to the bigger genetically engineered fish as opposed to their normal genetically mated wild counterpart. So they recognized that with the introduction of this particular fish, that they were going to actually bring about a whole destruction or distortion of this entire type of fish, because if all the females were going to be were going to be innately attracted to the bigger but sterile fish, they would all try to mate with this fish, therefore producing nothing, and then eventually the whole species would die out. Isn't that awesome? Now they just said that that's just one drawback of what we've created now by creating these genetically altered species and releasing them back into the environment. We don't even know what else can happen, because when things are put into Mother Nature, all kind of things can happen. But they recognize that the natural females were attracted to this bigger artificial fish, even though the females had no idea that mating with this fish was actually, what they call that, a blank, that they would never be able to be impregnated and never be able to reproduce their own kind. Now, I tell you the story because it's very important to go back, because we talk about building bridges here. When we talk about knowing self and we talk about making a commitment, one of the things that the sisters talked about, and we have to look at that from a true anatomical reality, how much of the self have we mutated or changed, and in chemistry we use the sign as a pyramid that equals change, where we have literally allowed our environment, based on our own personal choices, to create this artificial, literally genetically engineered being, emotionally, mentally, or physically. Does that make sense? And we have to be honest with that. We know that we have individuals who allow themselves to have tubal ligations, okay? I don't know what you call it here, but in America we call them tubal ligations, where you actually let somebody actually cut this tube out as a means of birth control, okay? In the States, we have people that have had vasectomies. They call them the same thing here, okay? And in a man, this segment of the tube in women actually becomes what's known as the vas deferens. So it looks kind of more squiggly like this vein here, but it still is cut, or either they put a little plastic or rubber plug into it to create the cessation of the sperm moving from the testicle through the prostate and out through the penis. So we have, by our own desires, created ourselves to literally be genetically engineered of sorts, or mechanically engineered, maybe that's a better term that we can use, by doing these things to ourselves so that we wind up still being sterile. Because you have to understand that this sterility is not just a physical manifestation, but as the sister said, it also is a reflection of an emotional state, of a mental state, that all changes the energetics of the individual. So when we are taking chemicals that alter our natural capacity to commit all of ourselves into a relationship, we begin to actually bring about our own demise. Now let me just go a little further in this aspect from a reproductive perspective. Again, it's real important, and this is part of why you have to know yourself. This is what the first thing is. Okay. Okay, do you think that the cosmos or the creator of all things would give you any part of your body that was meant to be a burden and to be traumatic and to scar and to destroy your life? I mean, that's just totally ridiculous. But so many of us have seen parts of our body, especially our genitalia, whether it's male or female, as this is something that basically can destroy your life. It's not the problem with the genitals. The genitals are totally created to do whatever the mind tells them to do. But now when the individual has not put in the time to study self, I alluded to this earlier, is that the genitals are multifunctional. Okay, the genitals can allow you to reproduce yourself. They can allow you to regenerate yourself. And when we talk about tissue regeneration, we need healthy genitals to actually be able to energize the stem cells so that you can rebuild any organ in your body. And they are also capable of bringing about neurologic and mental, thus spiritual expansion or enlightenment. Okay? So therefore these organs are needed to stay intact so they can be available so you, based on your consciousness, can decide how you want to use them. To use them as reproductive organs requires a state of consciousness. To use them as regenerative organs requires a state of consciousness. And to use them to expand the brain and to also bring about enlightenment also requires a state of consciousness. So they're kind of like a TV set, and they're a dial, okay? And you can actually turn the dial to station 1, station 2, station 3. But you have to do that knowing that they have multifunction and multi-potential. So to actually begin to chip away at or destroy the genitals, which means that you totally alter this reservoir of energy. The genitals are the governing factor for a whole bowl, as we call it, of pure cosmic energy. Okay, this is the genitals control this. And this is the reservoir that sits in your body, and literally this is what we call your pelvis. In the pelvis is a whole reservoir of pure cosmic energies that the genitals control based on your thoughts about the genitals and how to use them. So therefore, with this kind of energy available to you, this is why I say to you again, and I've been saying that every day, that you can do anything on this planet. You can be and must become all things and learn how to use this reservoir of energy to activate the brain and the tissues so that you can complete any activities you so desire. But you have to be willing to, first of all, learn and know yourself and not allow, again, your unknowingness that then is taken advantage of by the environment to have you want to shut this energy down. Cannot do that. So, self-commitment. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I said that the ideal school from kindergarten up until 8th grade should be nothing but anatomy of the human body. That you can learn how to count, how to read. As a matter of fact, you'll have to learn at least 3 languages for you to be able to really understand and master the physical body. You'll have to learn Latin, German, and whatever local language you speak, English, to understand the physical body. So the person, the child that is admitted to a school that is orientated to teach him only and only about himself, that child will come out speaking 3 languages, will understand his or her entire anatomy, will actually have completed all of the basic math sciences up until calculus, Oh yeah, will be a master in geometry, etc., and will completely know circuits and blood flows and the basic elements of the body, earth, air, fire, and water, in that period of time. Most people spend their entire life, 20, 25 years of school, and never ever know these things. And it's amazing to recognize that we have people that have master's degrees, PhDs, and they can't even tell you intelligently where their stomach is. They don't know exactly. The stomach is up here, it's not down here. People don't even know that. So they don't even know what's really bothering them because, again, their own body is what is actually holding them at bay. So when we talk about building bridges, the first commitment has to be that before I can really have a relationship with someone else, I have to really know what it is that I'm bringing to the table. What am I really offering and bringing to a relationship, not only with a mate, but also with the family of the mate, also with the community, etc., or with the people on the job that I've made a commitment to. It's very important to understand that. Secondly, when we talk about bridges, okay, this was a biggie for me, and I have to talk about that. We kind of commented earlier. Time telling. Okay. Time telling can get us into a lot of problems here. Okay? And it's not something to take lightly. Because how you tell yourself to tell time actually determines how your cells are going to function in relationship to the universe. Everybody's already released. You're already, as we call it, interestingly, time released. So, has everybody heard of time release pills? Okay. When they talk about, you take this pill and it's time release, that so much of it is released over time. Well, the concept came from your own anatomy because your own DNA is time released. That is to say that only certain segments of the DNA are going to open over time. But because there's only one time frame in the universe, okay, which is infinity. That's the only time that the universe knows is infinity. Then why is it that most of us never ever actualize this? Okay, we throw in a whole bunch of things in this equation. Aging, illness, degeneration, and then eventually the illusion of death. And there is no such thing. The sister already told you that you're going to have to come back and finish up where you left off. Okay, so there is no such thing. So this is really recycling. So whatever the experience was that you decided to release your physical manifestation or your physical imprint of, you get a chance to come back and start that whole cycle again so you can get it. Because there's never a reason as far as the universe goes as to why you should release your consciousness from your physical beingness. There's no reason for that. Because you have to understand that the body always is the physical reflection, okay, of your thoughts. So the only way you can literally die is that you have to think it, because it's never been created in the cosmos. So when we talk about actual time frames, then one has to decide what are they doing when they want to talk about time. And this is a biggie. It took me about 4 years to work through this, because we've been, as black people, created to be solar driven. So we deal with sun time, and we know that. This is one of my issues of being able to stay here, is it's not enough sun. So with not enough sun, it really throws me off as far as cosmic time, because I tell time by daytime, nighttime. And when there's clouds in the sky and it's a whole bunch of rain, then time becomes very hazy for me. So it doesn't matter about the little hands going around on this little dial. That's not how I choose to tell time, because my body rhythms don't deal with the machine. I'm not mechanical, I'm biological. And so I have to be accountable for how much light is permeating my nervous system in a cyclic period, because that is how my hormones work, etc. And this is one of the main crises for Black people, is that we have totally cut ourselves away from the real time clock that hooks us into our real destiny or our legacy, which is infinity. So therefore, if we're driven by solar time, then there has to be a commitment made that we always allow ourselves to be exposed to the energy that drives us. And even in Georgia, and I moved south to be able to have more direct exposure to intense sunlight, I still have to alter my schedule. So when I go back, my office opens at 6:30 in the morning and it closes at 1 p.m. because it's very important for me, for my own health and longevity, to have high quality sun time exposure. And so if we allow ourselves, based on individuals who are insensitive to light, because they're light deficient, which means they're melanin deficient, to determine the times of the day that you are functional, you will destroy yourself, because they are not aligned with sun time. So it doesn't matter to them really if they start at 9 a.m. and finish at 8 p.m. Okay, but if you do that, you will basically destroy your health and lose sight of your own biological interactions and mechanisms. So it's very important for us to recognize that we have to always avail ourselves to the sun. And we need at least 2 to 4 hours every day so that our hormones, our brain tissue, etc. stays aligned. That's a commitment, which means that for many of you, you will have to then allow yourselves to experience your natural gifts and talents and be willing to stand on that and believe that they can pay you whatever you need. Because if Europeans say it's not important for you to be in the sun and you need to be here at 9, and allow the sun to set before you leave, and you do that indefinitely, I guarantee you, you will never be able to live the length of time that you were created to. You have to be able to expose yourself. That's part of the commitment. So when we say we want to have relationships, but then again, we come to the relationship compromised. We're not spending time in the sun. We have not orientated ourselves to put ourselves on the proper time frame. Then for us, that causes havoc in our own cellular structure, which means that that's all that we can exhibit in our relationships. So as I went to Africa, it made very good sense to me. It was interesting. First time I went to Egypt in 1977, the banks and everything closed starting at 3 o'clock, and nothing opens again until 6. And the Europeans were going crazy. So their thing is that, why does everything take so long? And why is it that you're so slow? And why doesn't the bank stay open when we need to? It was always these challenges and questions. And when things don't run like they felt it should run, they always wanted to say that it was inept and that it wasn't efficient. So therefore, as I've gone back and forth to Egypt, I've noticed that the standard, the biological standard under which these people should be working, they have compromised for a piece of paper known as money. And I've seen their health go down, disease increase, everything, because they have not been willing to hold on to their natural rhythmic time cycle. So it makes sense that when the desert becomes most intense, that to conserve one's energy, one should basically be still. And so therefore, that's why everything naturally shut down. And then when the desert got cooler and everything, because we still had light, we could then reopen and still service the people till 8 o'clock at night, which is what they normally did. So now they allow them to build the Aswan Dam, and they're getting ready to build another one on the other end of the Nile, so they can now have generators to run all of the air conditioning that's necessary for you to be able to stand there and work through the hottest hours of the day in a totally unnatural environment that now brings a total different vibration on your body for a piece of paper that at any time its value can be worthless. And you have compromised the greatest gift that was given to you, which is infinity and immortality. So, it's time now because, again, the sister talked about the fact that we are leaders. I've been saying this all week. Everything has been moved cosmically, galactically for black people to take their proper place. But we have to pay attention and we have to be willing to play Sankofa. And you know, Sankofa is the bird that before it goes forward, it always looks back to see from where it's come so that it doesn't go in the wrong direction. So I'm saying that we can't continue to have these kind of lifestyles and live in these types of manners that we know bring disease. And if you don't know that they bring disease, because I'm telling you that they do, but I want you to verify for yourself by doing the research and then doing the experiments on yourself. So when I recognized that my destiny was immortality, I first of all stopped saying to myself that I was aging. I'm not aging. Okay? I'm watching time pass. See, and that's very important because now we talk about relativity. So if I recognize that I'm on the planet Earth and planet Earth is spinning at, 3,000 whatever miles per second, that's why we stay on it and don't actually, levitate off of it, then if I'm on this point and this Earth is spinning so fast, I can easily say that I'm at rest and everything else I can watch pass me. So when the moon comes, it's passing me. When Mars comes, it's passing me, etc. Because I'm really at zero. And when I say that I'm at zero, then I stop creating friction on my cells or on my tissues because that's how they've been programmed. That you are at zero rest because you're in a cycle of infinity, so therefore there should not be any friction when you're in alignment with the cosmos. And I agreed to be traveling at 3,000 some odd miles per second relative to the rest of the cosmos, but for me that is 0 miles per hour. So you might have to think about that for a moment, but if you decide and say to yourself that you are watching time pass you, then that means then that all you're watching is days and nights change, but it has nothing to do with any diminution or change other than what's present at the time. This is one of the psychological necessities needed for you to accept, for you to basically stop your own chronological aging. Because if you accept the calendars and the lunar cycle, you definitely will kill yourself. Because if you're solar driven, we know for a fact that it takes 270 lunar years to equal 1 sun year. It takes 270 years for planet Earth to make a full rotation around this solar system, which means that if you're solar driven, you have to live 270 lunar years to be 1 year old. You've been created to do that. But you can't basically accept that lunar or the moon cycle is the cycle that you've created to actually live under. You can't. You're solar driven, so you have to honor sun time, not moon time. And all of your calendars that you live by are lunar. They are not solar. So there's only 2 calendars that I know of that exist that are sun time calendars. The Kemetic or Egyptian calendar and the Mayan calendar. They knew they're jet black and they knew they had to live by sun time, which is why that allowed them to be thousands of years old. Anybody that lives by the moon is going to perish very soon. Okay? Now, it goes into some other teachings because the moon calendars are biological calendars for women to understand how to create in this dimension, but they were never to be used for the passage of time. They are creation cycles, not time or aging cycles, and that's important to understand. So, the commitment to self, and understanding one's anatomy. And I recommend that everybody should buy a Gray's Anatomy book. So, Brother Pepperkai, please get a bunch of them. You need to buy a Gray's Anatomy book, and you just need to start from the front to the back and read about yourself. you need to basically start deciding what time cycle you're going to actually live by. Okay, that's very important, because if you're racing yourselves through space when they don't need to be, you burn yourself out. It has nothing to do with how you've been created to be. That's not our destiny. And I really want you to pay attention to this, because I want you to look at the calendar that you live by. I mean, it's deep. The Gregorian calendar is an insult to your intelligence. Just by the fact that, you all have a September, right? You all have September? Well, in Latin, September is 7, but why does it mark the 9th month? Okay? Deca is 10, but why does it mark the 12th month in the calendar? Okay? And so I'm saying that the whole calendar was actually set up for people that couldn't even read. This calendar was established for people that were peasants, that couldn't even read, so they named the months whatever and just told you what they were. Because a learned person would recognize that, if it's December should be the 10th month, okay? September should be the 7th month, okay? And I think he decided to name, June after some friends, Julian, and a whole bunch of other foolishness. But it had nothing to do with reality. So therefore, they gave you some, just hodgepodge, thrown together calendar. They didn't even have enough respect to at least count it off relative to the moon. Because every moon cycle, there's 13 lunar moons to 1 year. It's not 12. And each one is precisely 28 days. And for you to create property on this planet, I don't care whether you're building a building, I don't care whether you're cooking, etc., you have to learn this relationship that it's 13/28. And it has nothing to do with these months that are 30, 31, and 27 or 29 days. That's all foolishness. So if you read the history of that, Pope Gregory went to bed, I think, on October 10th, and when he woke up the next day, he said that it's October 16th, and rearranged the whole calendar and give this to the people so that we can celebrate all of the high Christian holidays together. It was a means of taking all of the people that they had conquered and making them celebrate the high holidays together so they could bring their money to the church. Had nothing to do with whether we care about your brain, your pineal gland, your nothing. So one of the commitments that you're going to have to make, and as leaders, you got to stop leading the people on these cycles. We have to be willing to say, look, if we're all going to be here together, we've got to change the entire time relationship, because the cycles are killing people. Even when we talk about one of the things that I teach in helping people to regenerate their tissue, we don't even know when to eat properly, based on a daytime, nighttime cycle. The body has a biological cycle, and there's only 2 times in the day that the body eats. The body really only wants to take in food between 7 and 9 a.m. and 1 and 3 p.m. And this is when the energies are in these 2 major organs, the stomach and the small intestines, of which these organs work best when food is in the system. To really eat any meals of any significance at any other time actually short circuits the whole entire biological cycle. This is another key about aging. So, we talk about commitment to self, understanding anatomy, understanding time, okay? And then thirdly, purpose, okay? It is impossible to have a healthy relationship with anybody when you are not willing to live a purposeful life, because you give faulty assignments and you have faulty expectations of other people for them to provide for you self-assurance, for them to provide for you a value of your self-worth, etc., because you have not been willing to honor your own unique gift and talent. Once you recognize what your own personal unique gift and talent is and begin to actualize that, then your own self-worth, your own value comes into play, and you don't need anyone else to basically give you the strokes on that, because as you carry out your gift and talent, the people who receive it from you will let you know how wonderful and how divine it is. So because so many of us have forced ourselves to forfeit this, okay, and this is a real issue I find even between males and females, okay, especially in America. I don't know about here, but there's many black men in America who still have not lost their desire to create, and they have unique ideas and they want to actually move forward in their own personal businesses, etc. But they demonstrate that they find it very difficult that for black women to support them in their creativity. So normally the concept for black women is, you know, that we want you to have a job and we want you to be receiving benefits from white people. So therefore, if you're not getting benefits, and I haven't been in that circle my life, so I don't know what the benefits are. I think they're talking about, you know, health care insurance, you know, and getting paid on a vacation and that kind of thing, because I've always been self-employed, literally. So therefore, I think they want you to be able to have these kind of things with a job where they think that you're going to have a regular income because of the fear and insecurities that they have around their own personal survival. And this definitely was something that was brought to the African woman in America by being neurologically altered through the Willie Lynch procedures, which basically instilled deep-seated fear and inadequacy in the minds of the African woman in regards to her black man and the efficiency that he would be able to provide and protect her under normal circumstances. This is a breach of trust. So therefore, when we don't allow ourselves to live a purposeful life, it's because we don't trust ourselves. We feel that either what we believe in and what we want to do doesn't pay enough. We feel that we can't do it because maybe so many other people are doing it, or that, you know, nobody else ever heard of it before, so therefore we can't go on and do it. So we have to then force ourselves to submit and subject ourselves to circumstances that are not comfortable for us to be able to pay our bills. Well, this always will destroy a relationship. And I've seen, you know, many people have what they call 50th anniversaries, and I can't appreciate the fact that two people can endure each other for 50 years when they roll them both to cut the cake in a wheelchair, and they have to have somebody guide their hands because they all got, you know, blind, crippled, whatever else, etc. I personally do not perceive that as, you know, 50 years of a true, nurturing, powerful interaction with someone else. They're just two people that happen to survive together, and both of them lost their health in the process of trying to exist there. There were a lot of issues that weren't dealt with, but they just repressed it all, and it came out through destruction of their physical bodies. We need to start paying attention to this. This is not what we were created to experience. So whether you're going to be here on the planet 70 years, which I hope not, because that is definitely not your legacy, whether you're going to be here 300 years, 400 years, etc., your capacity to be independent, that is, as far as being able to get up, sit down, to walk, to think, to see on your own, etc., is all part of the plan inculcated in your own DNA. So the, you know, infirmities that we see in our elders and things are still part of accepting these distortions of who they are and what was actually really asked of them. So I'm saying that as the new leaders on the planet, it's time now for us to really look at these past events and really cast them to the side and not be willing to reiterate and to re-support these levels of existence on the planet anymore. This was not how things were created. And in our genes, the truth is known, but it requires you to take some time and to do some cleansing to bring that forth. So therefore, by the time we know the anatomy of self, we have redefined our relationship with time, we have been willing to move on purpose, then guess what? We get the magic of now being able to have true relationships. And these things are critical because this situation I talked to you about in America, where so many black men do not feel supported by black women because of the black woman's fear and inadequacy about trusting herself and believing in the seed that comes out of her uterus. You see, you have to understand that it says really something about a black woman who would give birth to a male child and then not believe that that male child could support her and be a companion to her at the level that she would like, or that his ideas would fail. Because that says a lot about what she really thinks about herself, even though most women who claim that rather that their mates work for white people, they don't have any clue of what they're saying, but it's one of the highest, most intense and painful insults you could give a person, which is why it drives many of these black men to marry white women. Okay, and so we're always concerned about why there's so much interracial marriages, etc. But if you yourself have low self-esteem or doubts about your own capabilities to perform from your own creativity, etc., and there's another person who is not willing to concede that and is determined that they're going to succeed in exhibiting their gifts and talents to the best of their capacities, they will attach themselves to someone who will support that. They may not have anything else in common, which is the case, but if that person's willing to say, I believe that, you can be the president and I'm going to help you do that, a person who is 100% devoted to self will say, okay, let's go for it. Because there's also such an intense belief in sacrifice. So that means if I have to sacrifice not being able to be associated with my own woman so that I can at least be true to myself, then they think that that's what they have to do. Though sacrifice is never the issue, and I really want you to get this, because the universe that we are a part of and the creator that we've come from has such an enormous abundance that we can never count and never know how much is available to us. So therefore the key is not about sacrifice, but about believing that one doesn't have to go without and being able to go within to find out what is really being asked of you to draw the support in the way that you want it. That's very, very important. We have to understand that. That's why it's never a real cosmic reason to ever go against an attempt to mate with something else. There's no reason for that. Okay, and no other animal will accept that. Okay, so you will not ever see the raccoons trying to mate with the birds and, that kind of thing, because they know innately that that is never ever necessary. Even if it's only 2 of them on the planet, they know some way, somehow, that they're going to be put together. Even if the white folks go and find them and put them together and keep them in the zoo, they know they're going to be together. Do you understand that? And it's real important that you never feel that you have to forsake yourself to actualize your dreams. It's never necessary. Never, never, never. So, therefore, there's a healing that has to occur, especially in the heart of the African woman, and also this mistrust and doubt that the black man has incurred about in the future not having been feeling supported by literally his own mother, because that's really what the relationship boils down to. Because recognizing that this is your mother who's literally given birth to you per se, and then does not even believe in you, is a really big, tremendous insult. Okay, so the woman has to really clean this uterus up and recognize that whatever she gives birth to, it has the capacity to be able to be ruler of not only planet Earth, but the entire galaxy, the cosmos, whatever she can envision. That is what comes out of your womb is capable of being. And once we can start digesting, literally digesting these quality of thoughts, then that's when we will have crossed over to the other side, because really building a bridge in a male-female relationship is really no more than actually building a bridge to come back to yourself. And it's real, real important that you get that. So, I just want to say this, can everybody see this again, that we're making a commitment here to self, that we're going to learn anatomy, that we're going to really break down and understand what time is really about and what time sequence we should be on. And then thirdly, we're going to actually commit to our purpose, that we don't have a national shoe chain in America. And I always talk about how unattractive so many African women's feet are because they've been forced to wear shoes that have never been designed for their foot. We have a unique foot, and it's very important to understand why our feet are so special. In medicine, there's a disease known as talipes equinovarus, and that is having too high of an arch where there's very little aspect of the foot that literally touches the ground. So when the foot doesn't touch the ground, there's very little energy that ascends from the earth through the foot that goes into the individual to orientate him or her to time and space, and to really empower the reproductive organs so that you can use the organs for all of these wonderful things that are available to you. So when you have this little foot with just a few little parts of the bones on the earth, that is not in your best interest. So the African given this foot that is almost like a pancake means that they have complete contact with the surface of the earth. You don't want to lose that, and you need to just have a person understand that and create a shoe that accommodates it. So having a flat arch is not traumatic at all for the African body. Why? Because you have 8 times the muscle mass, you have 10 times the bone density to absorb the shocks and traumas as long as you walk on the earth. Now, you decide that you want to come to the city and you want to walk on cement and concrete. Well, now that's going to require you to have a mechanism that's going to shield your bones, because absorbing the shock from concrete and asphalt is something totally different. We need you geniuses out there to create the shoes that will do that for us. White people are not interested. They've shown you that. You've been here 500 years and they're still making the same kind of shoe that has nothing to do with the curvature of your foot. So therefore, we need to create shoes that honor our feet so that while we are here in this environment, that we do not bring trauma to our bones and to the muscles of our lower legs. So now, how do we have our needs met? It is the responsibility for the mother to recognize that she has a need. And if she happens to be creating people, then she creates a child who is orientated to do that. So in the old days when we needed people to come and to solve solutions, we did something very simple. We prayed for them, and we got our body in order, and we got the environment in order to make way for the person. So the commitment is that you can bring a soul here and give that soul a body and orientate that person in such a way that they will bring that forth without failure. So we don't, this is how we brought all the people here. So this is the power of motherhood, that you can bring forth whatever you need. You need a hotelier. In America, as many organizations as we have, there's no hotel that can actually, that is black owned, that can actually house more than 150 people. And there's 60 million people, black people in America, which is ridiculous. So we need massive hotels, and if we choose to have a conference with 5, 10, 15,000 folks, that they can be housed and entertained and everything in one institution. Well, we don't have that. So any of you out there, mothers who are interested, pray, clean your body up, and bring forth the soul that can do that. That's how the Sheratons got here. That's how the Hiltons got here, etc. There's a woman who was interested in that and brought those souls forth. So I'm saying that these are the kind of things that you have to learn about your body and about yourself. But for right now, these are the 3 things that are being asked of us. For every problem that we have in our environment, there's already a person born to solve it. But if he is working for somebody else on their job, or if he is off somewhere basically feeling that his ideas and things will not be supported, then this is why we all suffer. And so therefore it's time now for us to stop lying, stop working for other folks, and start actualizing our dreams. I have seen very creative people die literally because of their own fears and insecurities about believing in themselves and that what they do has merit. And they learned that from the family structure that they grew up in, the mothers, etc. So I've heard many times that mothers tell their children, oh, you need to leave that alone and get over here and do this. No. The child normally is showing you what he or she is good at, and you need to support them in that. Because whether they want to make boxes or whether they want to draw pictures, you can learn anything from any direction. So truly, some of our great artists had to become mathematicians. They had to learn about color, the texture, everything else to draw. So you should not discourage anyone from doing what they seem to naturally do best. You should actually embellish that. And we have to be true to ourselves on that. So with that, because the list is longer, but I don't want to overload you here, I would like some time to come back, or in my book, The Uterus of Cosmic Science, you can read on more of understanding how to be able to activate the genitals so that they can expand your brain function and also be used for tissue regeneration. But the first thing that we need to do is stop living a life where we allow our genitals to victimize us. And you should not want anyone to bring to you artificial methods of birth control, etc. It's for you to sit down and take time and learn about your body and how it functions. It's interesting, there's something known as there's all kind of means of being able to control your family. One method is sun-moon angles. Every time a person is born, the sun and moon made an angle in degrees. And when you know what your sun and moon angle is, this is the time that you're fertile. And it only happens twice a year. It only happens twice a year. 2.5 days, twice a year. That's the only time you can get pregnant, literally. And so if you don't know what your sun and moon angles are, then you can do all kinds of silly things to yourself, chasing and trying to prevent these 2.5 days, twice a year of fertility. But any women who know their sun-moon angle, it's interesting, they only have 2 types of children born in 2 different times of the year, and they're usually born within 3 days of each other, regardless of how many children they have, because that's the only time they can really become pregnant. So with this information not even told to the woman, she takes pills to combat an issue that only happens 12 to 24 hours once every 28 days. It's ridiculous. So I'm saying that we bring this on ourselves because we will not go and do the work. Secondly, in Kemet, women did not walk around bleeding and menstruating. That is a no-no, and that is what causes menopause. Menopause is total exhaustion of the brain because so many nutrients have been lost over 40 to 45 years of bleeding every month. That was not supposed to happen. Women should be able to reproduce and have children way up 70, 80 years old. And the older or mature a woman becomes, the more capable she is of raising a high-quality child. So, it would be ideal if women could have all of their children starting at age 55, 60, 65 years old. They are not looking like the ones that you see that are 60, 65 years old, because women who have used this breathing technique, it's called ovarian breathing. Okay, where after your initiation that indicates that you are fertile, which means your first or second menstrual cycle, you are taught how to breathe properly for 20 minutes the first 13 days of every month, which means that you pull the energies out of the pelvis where you never create a mature egg. You never bleed, you never ovulate, you never have any periods until you are ready to reproduce. Once you are ready to reproduce, you stop the breathing techniques, and usually within maximum 90 days, your period resumes. This is how we practice natural birth control in the ancient times. That's why we never had to have sanitary pads and all of this foolishness. Okay, because you didn't walk around bleeding, and it was considered ignorant and a totally ill-trained woman that would walk around that way. Even in the Bible, they talk about these women who were issuing blood. They knew that that was a disease at that time. It was not even allowed. So I'm just saying that the level of ignorance that we have fallen into because of not studying self, we are paying the price for, and we cannot allow ourselves as leaders to perpetuate this ignorance anymore. So it's time now that we study this, that we start raising our next generation with this, and the same thing for men. You use your blood supply when you make semen. And every time a man has ejaculation, he loses the equivalent of 1 pint of blood in nutrients. That's why so many men die so much earlier than women, because they just waste their blood all up and down, with all these relationships, etc. So if you're having 2 or 3 orgasms in a night, you've lost 3 pints of blood. And most men who would do that to themselves do not know how to replenish that nutritionally. So therefore, there's something known as testicular breathing, where you actually move the energies out of the testicles so that you do not make sperm, but you can still have orgasm, because most men have not been taught that to be orgasmic and to make semen are two separate things. One has nothing to do with the other. But this is a type of sacred information that we used to know that was really inculcated in our rites of passage that has been lost. And it's in your genes, and you have to be able to recover it. So there's some authors that are still writing on this. You can write me and I'll give you the information. I would like to see Pepper Kai carry these books so that we can get busy renewing ourselves and giving this information back to the world. So, and thirdly, okay, so we have sun, moon angles, ovarian breathing for reproduction for women, okay. And also too, we have what's known as the inner smile. Okay, and this is a meditation, okay, that is done by actually forming a direct relationship with your ovaries. And every organ resonates to your thoughts. So you can directly talk to any part of your body and tell it what it is that you would like it to do for you at any particular time. And by doing this on a regular basis, normally every day, because it only takes about 20 minutes, etc., you can also shut your ovaries down where they will not ovulate for you, and then wake them up when you choose to. Because the body only does what you tell it to. You can control your breathing, your heart rate, you can control all of these things. But it requires you to begin to have a rapport with it. The body is not on automatic unless you allow it to stay on automatic. You're given that gift at birth, but an evolved being who's moving into his or her God essence has to begin to take over the body and direct the processes so that you can fulfill your destiny, which is to become a god or goddess, which means that your heart rate may have to slow down, it may have to speed up, whatever. These are the things that you're supposed to take over, every bodily process. Because eventually, and last thing, I didn't talk about this, and you can think about it, it's not anything you want to do it right now, but in closing, as you know, gods and goddesses don't eat. They don't eat. They are directly able to take direct sunlight and air and live off that. And this was another one of the cosmic laws that we broke. We were never ever to eat gross matter from this planet. Never. We were solar-driven beings. So that as we evolve back into our original selves, these are all the things that you can think about. And it's not hard, it's a weeding process. It's not hard to do, it's a weeding process, but you have to be accountable. But just think how powerful you are when you can actually walk around the planet and know that you don't have to bring harm to any animal, any insect, any plant, any seed, or any nut. Okay, so again, building bridges requires a commitment to self, a knowledge of one's anatomy, a redefinition of time, and a commitment to purpose. And if every male and female would do that, then many of the issues that we have now in our relationships would be non-existent. Thank you.
As I told you, when Dr. Pookrum delivers, then it just kind of leaves us speechless. There's so much in there, and I'm sure if we have the time, we'd learn so much more. This is one of the books that Dr. Pookrum has written, Vitamins and Minerals, A to Z, and that's on sale. Also,
yeah, this is by a young brother of Dr. Curtis Cost, and I happen to write one of the endorsements in here. It's an excellent book on vaccinations, and Dr. Sally's going to talk about the dangers of that later, but this is something that you must not do. Now see, you know, as I've been working with women here for the last 20-something years, I've had to hear all of this. Well, you know, if we don't get our children inoculated, then they can't go to the public school, etc. Well, don't take them. We're paying a high price for you allowing them to interject these viruses and who knows in the body. In America, they already have identified the fact that they can now introduce microchips into the body through a 22-gauge needle. So therefore, you don't know what your children are getting, so why even subjecting them to that? You have to remember, all the great people who made changes in this planet did not go to school. I don't know why we got so fixed on this. So if you can read and write yourself, then your children can learn anything through you. You have to start trusting yourself, the power of the uterus, the power of your own DNA. And the sooner we pull ourselves out of these institutions and trust ourselves and move forward, that's when we're going to see all of these psychological shackles fall to the wayside, and we're going to be able to move forward. The world is waiting for you to do this, and you cannot be afraid, women. You cannot. So you have to read about this, and it's a terrible thing for your child to go deaf, your child to be blind, your child to be hyperactive. So many children are in institutions now because they got these vaccinations that totally ruin their nervous system. You can't tell them to do anything, and now they're locked away being researched on because you did not believe in yourself. So if you read about breast milk, it is a natural immunizer. Whatever you've been exposed to in life, once that baby breastfeeds from you for 2 months, the baby is totally inoculated. So you had to tell these people, what are they talking about? They have 9 breast milk banks in America that anybody who's nursing, they will buy your milk from you, because for those women who cannot produce children, all the children that are artificially inseminated and in vitro created, they get the breast milk that you made from the breast milk bank. And then the rest of the breast milk is used for the cloned children that the federal government is making for their armies. So it's a high price on breast milk, and you won't sit up here and act like you don't know what it is. And I'm saying that you're causing your children to suffer. So if a raggedy school says that, you know, they can't go there, then form your own. I know that there's teachers out there. And you have to start homeschooling, and you don't care about their criteria to meet their standards or whatever, because that's how you've been held in check and in slavery. So our standards are much higher. We can supersede that, and we don't have to rise to their stuff, because I'm telling you, you're going to watch these children create all kind of awesome things, and you would get off of them and not try to form them into something that they were never created to be. So don't send them there. So don't worry about it. Read his book and start your own schools. Also, Dr. O. Africa, his book, I also wrote the introduction to this or something. Yeah, I'm busy writing on stuff, okay? I wrote the introduction to that. It's an excellent book on how to take care of ourselves. See, you have to recognize that our healthcare system you abandoned, and you adopted somebody else's, and it's destroyed us. So in America, I don't see the Asians laying up in these hospitals. They don't go there. They just learn enough English to dictate to you. Okay, I don't see the Orientals, because I'm confused here. In America, the Orientals are the Koreans, the Filipinos, the Japanese, the Chinese. They don't lay up in those hospitals. They bring their herbs, they bring their acupuncture needles, and they learn enough English to dictate to you. So the only people in America that use the American hospital system is black folks and white folks. The white people walk away, the black people either crawl out or get rolled to the morgue. So they know not to take themselves to the hospital because they recognize that it is not their medicine. So how many more people do we have to lose to recognize that that is not our medicine, and that the hospitals that are established for white people, they need to stay for them? We need our own medicine, and it is very simple. It's good hygiene. It's fresh air, it's sunlight, it's lots of clean water, it's lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, no meat, no carbonated beverages, and we will live infinitely. And we have to understand that and be willing to let these addictions go. Thank you.
Okay, brothers and sisters, so we'll come back for the second half.
We're now going to open the floor up
for question and answer session or period, which follows on from the first half. So I'd like to ask Dr. Jewel Pookrum and Sister Nana Amma to just come forward and take a seat at the front, and then we're going to go ahead with any questions and answers that came from the first half.
Yusuf Samara. My question is, I'd like to know about blood tests. If it's hard for taking, like when you go to the hospital and use a needle and take blood out your body, what is the best? What is a better solution? Instead of go and you get injection for them to know your blood type, and if you got various diseases, is there any other means instead of going to have an injection to get a blood test where you can get your blood test? Yeah?
Okay, if I understood your question right, you want to know if it's advisable for you to go to the doctor and have blood drawn?
Yeah. No, for blood tests. I don't want to go to have any injection or no blood drawn out of me. I want to know if there's a better way of having a blood test instead of having it, them drawing it out of me by a needle, because I don't really like needles going into my vein to take the blood out.
Right. There's a lot of alternative ways of diagnosing. You can have an iridology reading, iridologist. There's people who could read the face, acupuncture, etc. If you are interested in blood, there's a test, I don't know how much they do it here in England, known as a live cell analysis. I did bring my microscope, and we can take a drop of blood and look at it. The blood actually comes from your fingertip to evaluate what conditions you're in. So on rare occasion, having a general blood analysis can be important if we're looking for more serious things. But for the majority of people, as I've seen, for Africans especially, either one of these type of holistic diagnosis or live cell analysis is adequate. So we just have to find in our community, and I'm sure we have them here, as to who does this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pookrum, and thank you, brother, for the question. Any additional questions from the audience? Perhaps the sister? Sister, come forward, thank you.
Greetings, I'm Sister Ephraim. My question is directed at Dr. Pookrum. I personally have never had my children vaccinated. I've read the book, Vaccines Are Dangerous, and I would suggest that everybody reads it. I try to give my children and myself a really healthy diet, as well as try and use herbs and aromatherapy. I'm interested in traveling to Africa, and I don't want no vaccinations. I'm wondering if you could give me some advice on what's best to do.
Okay, the children have never been vaccinated?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Well, my recommendation is you need to carry what we call a medicine bag. Okay, and in the medicine bag, you should have some basic things. One of the natural antibiotics combinations that works quite well for us is golden seal and echinacea, or golden seal and myrrh. You always want to keep vitamin C with you, and also white willow bark. Vitamin C immediately stimulates the immune system, and white willow bark is used as a mild pain reliever, but also it helps to combat any type of extensive febrile states, or lowers the temperature. Also, you want to make sure that you take a laxative, okay, in the form of either cascara, sagrada, in syrup form, or tea, to make sure that the children and yourself, and you definitely are eliminating well. That's one of the main reasons that most people get sick when they travel, is because they allow foods of a different nature, with different bacteria on them, to build up in the digestive tract. And travel long periods of time can dehydrate the body, which will tend to cause you to be constipated. So you want to make sure that everybody's bowels is working well. There's some external preventative measures you want to take. There's something known in the States that's sold by Avon known as Skin So Soft. Okay, and it is a marvelous insect repellent. I think it's the scent of these oils that are combined together that the insects don't like, especially ticks and mosquitoes. Also, citronella is very good as an insect repellent. There's one natural insect repellent that comes out of Australia that's very good. It's quite strong that you want to use. You want to make sure that you and the children go on a cleansing diet about 2 weeks before you leave, so that you do not give the children carbohydrates. Mosquitoes are drawn to blood quality that either is high in protein or excessive carbohydrates. And so if you don't have that in your system, they tend also not to be interested in biting you. Okay, because as you sweat, if that doesn't come out on the skin, then they're not attracted to that. Okay? Other than that, there shouldn't be much that you really need to do. If I were you, I'd take also incense with me, so that in case you're in areas where there's still a high infestation, they don't like incense either. Okay, especially good quality, like Naga Champa, yeah, they don't like that. They don't like patchouli or lang lang either as far as aromatherapy. So you can use that to keep your place fumigated along with citrus. Okay, sweet orange. Thank you. Oh, good. She said it's a homeopathic pack that you can get. Yeah, depending on the age of the children, that you can take also. That can ward off malaria. Oh, good. Oh, so it's a homeopathic pack you can take for what I call atomic immunity. Yeah. Okay. You know the name?
Yeah. I can tell you where to get this, the homeopathic pack that will cover, you know, all the diseases that one would normally have injections for. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that. There was a brother at the far right, Brother Nawazi, if you want to come forward to ask your question, and then the brother with the hat on, and the younger brother afterwards.
Okay, good afternoon, sister. This question is directly directed to Sister Pookrum. It follows up from the vaccination question, basically. There are people who, through no fault of theirs, have already been vaccinated, have had various vaccines. What sort of advice would you give those people in terms of probably healing the effects of those vaccines?
There are people who what?
Who already have been vaccinated.
Right. Okay.
What advice would you give to those people?
There's a couple things you can do, but you definitely have to eat well. But also, too, there's homeopathic remedies that can actually neutralize the miasmic effects of that, so that the residues that are in the system you can get rid of. So you definitely might want to visit a homeopath and be evaluated to see if you have any residues, and they can give you a remedy to get rid of that. But we don't recommend that you take any more. Okay. So there definitely polio, we know, smallpox, measles, typhoid can leave residues, and you can get homeopathically treated to dissolve that residue out of your energetic body. Okay?
Greetings to the speakers, greetings to the wider family. My name is Fabian, and I have a question for each of you. Stomach energy. Could you speak a little more on that, please?
Can you just give me a little more information on what you mean?
I didn't, unfortunately earlier on I was distracted and I didn't catch what was spoken of in terms of the area of enhancing the stomach energy or whatever, and the small intestine. I got those two headlines, but I didn't really catch much else.
Okay, I've been talking so much today.
Okay.
Was I talking about the times to eat?
Yes, I actually recalled it like 7 to 9.
Yeah, 7 to 9 a.m. is the time that the body is detoxifying and regenerating the stomach. And the stomach works best for its regenerative and detoxifying effects when food is in it. So that's the stomach time. And then 1 to 3 p.m. is the small intestines time. And the small intestines detoxifies and regenerates itself when there's food in the small intestines. So we recommend that those are the primary times for eating. And, you know, my goal is eventually to see our culture shift where these are cultural practices, where it's just understood that you normally would have a meal between 7 and 9 a.m. and then a meal between 1 and 3. And that as we continue to grow, that our businesses would obviously recognize lunch and breakfast at that time, that our restaurants would recognize serving high-quality meals at that time, etc. And this is how you begin to build a society that perpetuates the cycles of life as opposed to destroy them. So right now we're at the zenith of living in a society that has a culture that is totally contrary to the cycle of life. The times that they serve the food, the types of food that they serve, the stimulation at nighttime as opposed to resting. It's just a continuous destructive cycle. And if you partake of this culture in its entirety, you will destroy yourself. So it's also about learning what is the natural cycles that are biologically complementary to the body, which are complementary to our universe, and beginning to live by those. And when we collectively agree to do that, then that's when we create a culture that will sustain life and ensure our immortality.
What minerals and vitamins do you need to have healthy blood?
Okay, did you get my book? So we have quite a list for you. And so the ones that I discuss in there, I do reiterate some are not necessary for us and some are. And so it's a nice treatise on vitamins and minerals that are presently known that you can take time and study and look at the food sources. I wrote the book intentionally not to encourage per se vitamins and minerals, but to get us accustomed to identifying that food is medicine and that there are certain foods that have high concentrations of certain vitamins and minerals, and you should be able to go to a restaurant and pick a menu or be able to go to the market and select foods and buy them based on their nutritional content and knowingly or consciously, and be able to serve yourself a wholesome meal. So read the book and just take, you know, a chapter every week and study it and digest it. Okay, and that'll tell you what you need for your blood.
Thank you, Dr. Pookrum.
Hello, I'm Sister Linda. This is directed to you, Dr. Pookrum. You mentioned about the menopause, and I just wanted to get a fuller understanding. You said that that there is no such thing. Is that correct? As the menopause? Okay.
Not in healthy women. It's menopause is a nutritional and neurologic deficiency. Okay, and that's why the treatment for it is replacement of the deficiency, which are hormones that normally the brain and the ovaries would make. And the reason why the brain and the ovaries become insufficient in making these hormones is because of chronic nutritional deficiencies from excessive loss of blood over years of time. And so when we give these nutrients back to women, they actually start menstruating again. This is why I think it was here in this country, no, it's in America, that a 69-year-old woman was able to have a baby. Okay, and so what they did was give her the hormones that her ovaries didn't make. She was able to hold a pregnancy. It was from her own body, her blood, that she was able to make the body for this baby, which means that if there was really a problem with your body that you could not carry a pregnancy, I don't care whether she was artificially inseminated or not, she wouldn't have been able to build a body. So there was telling me that in this entire cycle of creation, there was only one aspect that was deficient, and that was having enough estrogen and progesterone on board. And once they gave that to her, she was able to carry out the entire pregnancy.
So that means that this was a deficiency, and women create this within themselves by not understanding how to have control over the ovaries. Do you understand that? So there's a really big plot behind this. You really need to pay attention to it. The Barbary Library in the Vatican really contains most of the information on the science of the woman. And I don't know about here, but in the United States, they make it very clear that they wanted to have the woman's body for the creative energy, but they did not want her intellect or her opinion involved. So on many of these topless dancer places, etc., they will have a woman's body there with her entire body but her head off. And they're intentionally telling you that we want to be able to have control over the body, the use of the regenerative organs, etc., but we don't want any opinions. We don't want your mind involved. And so there's been a continuous rape over and over again in many different areas, in many different ways of the woman. And because this next 1,000 years has returned full cycle to the creative principle, that can no longer be. And there's a lot of cultural behavior patterns, a lot of institutional behavior patterns that have been totally disrespectful to the creative principle. It cannot continue, and we as men and women have allowed this to be perpetuated. So it's really a time now for us to really pay attention to what we believe, the habits that we're involved in, etc., and really identify those that do not respect the creative or the feminine and relinquish them. Because for those people who continuously transgress them, they will be destroyed. I'm just telling you outright. Okay, it cannot be anymore. So this entire planet is feminine. Okay, and that should not be an assault or a burden to a woman or to a male, because this energy is very important, obviously, for life. But like anything, we are on this planet at this time by our own choice to understand the feminine in our own personal microscopic and also in our macrocosmic awareness. You understand that? And I'm saying that it's very important. We can never elevate ourselves from this dimension until we learn how to master and appreciate this aspect of divinity. And all men and all women will have to respect the creative principle. We have to deal with it for the next 1,000 years, or even you'll perish.
The sister in red, if you can get ready to come forward, go ahead.
Greetings everyone. My name's Brother Godfrey, and I've got a question for Jewel. Well, it's not so much a question. I'd like you to elaborate on, earlier you were talking about genetic engineering. And I couldn't work out if you were like in favour of it or opposed to it. But if you could elaborate maybe on where genetic engineering is going to and ultimately is it a good thing?
You're speaking to who?
Sorry?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dr. Pookrum. Dr. Pookrum, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not in favor at all of genetic engineering, and it's real important that you study what this is doing, okay, because it is taking genes from species and combining them in such a way that they're making creatures that normally would not exist in nature. And because we have our own evolutionary time clock to experience, if we take on and put into our bodies DNA in a mixture and in the water that has nothing to do with our normal evolution and awakening, it can deviate you from your genetic evolutionary path. So you do not want to be involved with anything that's genetically engineered, from foods to people, etc. And as I've explained to you with this situation with the fish, they will lead to your extinction, okay, because these are organisms that are created by man who at this point in its evolution, in their evolution, are quite short-sighted in understanding and seeing the future long-term consequences of what they're doing. So if this will help you any, we've always been in communication with beings from other planets and from other dimensions. And yes, there has been a tremendous amount of interaction with humans over the last 50 years for their DNA from other beings. And especially from the African race, and I don't know how many black people can
recall that they have had interactions with other beings, and it has been because our future, we have and did decide that having an emotional body was a problem, and that all the problems that we're working through now were due to the fact that we have this emotional body. And if we would remove the emotional body, then we would not have the problems that we had, and we did that. And so the future understands that that was a real big problem, it was a no-no, and it was something that should have never happened. So therefore they had to come back and get the original human template that does have the DNA recorded for the emotional body and begin to recombine that with their present genetic genome. So I'm saying that it's very important, and it's interesting because the now always contains the past and the future. The past, the present, and the future. And as we appear to be moving forward in time, the decisions that we make, we will see again, either behind us or in front of us. So it's kind of hard to explain, I'm not at the board, but time folds on itself. Okay, it takes on a ribbon folding form so that you truly can go forward into the past and back into the future, because everything is a spiral. So I'm saying that the future of us has made mistakes that they are trying to basically correct. And we can basically avoid that by being willing to do just something very simple, which is to realign ourselves with universal law, Ma'at principles, and live that and allow the perfection in every species as it is to stay that way. There's nothing wrong with us, and there's nothing that we need to fix. We just need to allow what we are to continuously evolve. Does that make sense? And the consciousness that